There are two more stories of exorcisms performed by Jesus in the Bible which we will cover in this chapter. The first has to do with the Syrophoenician woman's daughter found in Mark and Matthew's Gospel.
This exorcism story is not found in Luke's Gospel. Both Mark and Matthew place this story immediately after the confrontation with the Pharisees and scribes on the issue of defilement. Mark, however, includes a comment concerning Jesus abrogating the food laws of that time.
Because it entereth not into his heart, but into the belly, and goeth out into the draught, purging all meats?
Since food is merely physical, no one who eats it will defile his heart or their inner person, which is spiritual. Physical pollution, no matter how corrupt, cannot cause spiritual or moral pollution. Neither can external ceremonies and rituals cleanse a person spiritually.
By overturning the tradition of hand washing, Jesus in effect removed the restrictions regarding dietary laws. Jesus had already taught them that no food was unclean, if prayer was said before they ate it. Food just passes through the body and then goes out in the draught, so that could not possibly hurt anyone.
His placement shows that not only are the food laws revoked, but so are the racial barriers that separated Jews from Gentiles. The event took place in the region of Tyre, near the coast. At that time, Jesus was hoping for some uninterrupted time with his disciples.
And from thence he arose, and went into the borders of Tyre and Sidon, and entered into a house, and would have no man know it, but he could not be hid.
As soon as the mother of this innocent child heard that Jesus was nearby, she searched, and when she had found him, fell at his feet.
For a certain woman, whose young daughter had an unclean spirit, heard of him, and came and fell at his feet.
Her daughter is described as having an unclean spirit, and in this next verse, a demon, which explains why she was seeking out the help of Jesus. She knew exactly what she wanted, for Jesus to cast out this devil from her daughter.
The woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation, and she besought him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter.
Mark emphasizes her ethnic identity and her persistence in asking Jesus to cast the demon out of her daughter. Matthew emphasizes the disciples' discomfort with this situation, as well as a rough statement made by Jesus to the woman.
But he answered her not a word. And his disciples came and besought him, saying, Send her away, for she crieth after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Jesus' comment that he was sent only for the lost sheep of Israel is unique to Matthew. However, not surprising, his gospel is the most Jewish of the four gospels, and this woman was a Gentile.
Another difficult statement made by Jesus was this: let the children be fed first, because it isn't right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs.
But Jesus said unto her, Let the children first be filled, for it is not meet to take the children's bread, and to cast it unto the dogs.
We know that Jews often referred to Gentiles as dogs. That Jesus used the diminutive form of the dog, kynarion, does not soften the insult. Her reply impressed Jesus when she stated, Lord, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs.
And she answered and said unto him, Yes, Lord, yet the dogs under the table eat of the children's crumbs.
This gives us an indication of the woman's humble faith and worshipful. She knew she was sinful and undeserving of any of God's blessing. The woman responds with insight into Jesus' patient grace. She turns his own words back on him. This was a very wise woman.
She did not argue with him, she in fact agreed. Then she admitted to being unworthy. She was humble. She was willing to take the crumbs that fell from the table, knowing that even this would be the most powerful food she had ever eaten.
She was saying, Lord, in the face of all the wonderful miracles, this is just a crumb in comparison to that. Her humbleness and faith won him over. And Jesus responds by saying,
And he said unto her, For this saying go thy way, the devil is gone out of thy daughter.
Although Israel receives the primary blessings of the covenant, Gentiles also were to be the recipients. Matthew records Jesus' commendation of her great faith. This is the only exorcism from a distance recorded in the Gospels. However, on more than one occasion, Jesus healed people from a distance.
The hero of the story is clearly Jesus, as he cast the demon out of the woman's daughter. When the mother returned home, she found her daughter resting comfortably on her bed. This woman is a shining example of faith, humility, and persistence. Her faith and persistence are intertwined.
She believed Jesus could heal her daughter, and refused to give up until Jesus did. Even when he challenged her faith, she responded with a wise and discerning comment. She demonstrated humility by falling at Jesus' feet.
Her daughter benefited from her mother's intercession on her behalf. We do not know anything about the daughter except that she had a demon. We do not know why she had a demon, how long she had the demon, nor why the mother knew that she was demonized. We also do not know if after this event, she became a follower of Jesus, but it seems certain that her mother was.
Maybe the significant point from this study is that passionate, heartfelt intercession is an effective weapon against the enemy. As we are told in Ephesians chapter 6.
Praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints, and for me, that utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly, to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly, as I ought to speak.
Intercessory prayer may be a believer's most effective weapon in spiritual warfare when exercised on behalf of someone who does not know Christ.
The exorcism of a demonized boy is the last of 4 major exorcism stories in the Synoptic Gospels. Once again, Mark's account is the most extensive. The incident follows immediately after events at the Mount of Transfiguration. As Peter, James, and John returned from the mountain, they found the other disciples embroiled in a debate with the scribes.
And when he came to his disciples, he saw a great multitude about them, and the scribes questioning with them.
When Jesus asked what was going on, the Father explained that he had brought his Son to the disciples to cast out a spirit, and they were unable to do so.
And one of the multitude answered and said, Master, I have brought unto thee my son, which hath a dumb spirit, and wheresoever he taketh him, he teareth him, and he foameth, and gnasheth with his teeth, and pinneth away, and I spake to thy disciples that they should cast him out, and they could not.
The demon not only caused the boy to be mute but even drove him to attempt suicide by causing him to throw himself into fire or water. Jesus' response is surprising, "You unbelieving generation, how long will I be with you? How long must I put up with you?"
He answereth him, and saith, O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him unto me.
Scholars debate the object of Jesus' frustration. Some understand it to be the crowds, because of other references to the unbelieving generation being to the crowds. Others understand it to be the Father because, like so many, he sought Jesus only for what he could do for him.
Clearly, it is more likely that his frustration was with the disciples. Jesus had given them authority over serpents and scorpions and over all power of the enemy, and yet, they could not cast the demon out.
Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you.
When the boy was brought into Jesus' presence, the Spirit threw him into a convulsion. This should not be interpreted as an epileptic seizure, but a demon's horrified response to Jesus' presence. Mark's description is graphic and certainly would have frightened the bystanders.
And they brought him unto him, and when he saw him, straightway the spirit tare him, and he fell on the ground, and wallowed foaming.
Instead of immediately casting out the demon, Jesus had a brief conversation with the boy's father. He learned that the man's son had been tormented since his childhood. The father was in such a desperate condition that he simply asked for pity. "If you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us."
Jesus' reply stirred faith in the man. "If you can? Everything is possible if you believe." The man honestly admitted his faith was mixed with unbelief. Jesus cast out the demon as a crowd gathered around him.
Mark and Matthew describe the following conversation between Jesus and the disciples as to why they could not cast the demon out. Matthew's account focuses on their lack of faith, while Mark focuses on the importance of prayer for casting out this kind of demon.
The two accounts are not contradictory but complementary, as prayer and faith are intertwined. Those who believe, pray, and answered prayer strengthens faith. Jesus' comment about the kind of demon being resistant is intriguing. However, Jesus did not expand on the thought, and one must be careful about speculating beyond the text. What does seem clear, however, is that some demons are more difficult to deal with than others.
What can be learned from these 4 exorcism stories? These 4 stories give us much insight into the subject of spiritual warfare.
First, the exorcism in the Capernaum synagogue demonstrates that the arrival of God's kingdom brings conflict with the kingdom of darkness. The frequent references to Satan and exorcisms in the opening sections of Mark's Gospel indicate that Jesus' ministry will be characterized by conflict. These 4 stories should be understood as representative of the kind of confrontation with demons that Jesus had on a regular basis.
Second, demons can take over the bodily movement of an individual as well as speak through that person, which is seen in each of the first 2 stories. In those stories, the demons had supernatural knowledge of Jesus' true identity. Clearly, the evangelists wanted their readers to understand the demons' confessions as accurate.
Third, from the story of the Gadarene demoniac, a number of insights can be gleaned. Evidently, many demons can inhabit a single person simultaneously. These demons are able to increase the natural strength of an individual. Demons also appear to be somewhat territorial and for whatever reason will resist relocating.
The transfer of the demons from one host to another is unique to this incident. It would be wise not to understand this to be something that the evangelists would be recommending to their readers, permitting demons to leave one host and go to another host. That is not found in any of Jesus' other exorcisms or in the book of Acts speaks to the uniqueness of the event.
Fourth, some demons will resist leaving their host and resort to begging and pleading if necessary. When commanded to leave, they will often leave somewhat violently by sending their host into a sort of convulsion.
Fifth, demons fear Jesus and his authoritative spokespersons. Jesus gave the disciples authority to cast out demons, and they rejoiced that demons were subject to them in Jesus' name. Their failure to cast the demon out of the man's son was because that kind of demon would only come out by prayer, which is exactly what the mother and father did in the 3rd and 4th exorcism stories.
They approached Jesus on behalf of their children, and Jesus set their children free. Intercessory prayer is an effective weapon in cosmic conflict.
Thanks for watching. And remember, God's children are not for sale.